So a word just came to me that I was trying to say 3 days ago that I've known for, oh my God, over 20 years, and that's taxonomy. The problem is that as I receive more head injuries, and the only reason why I'm getting severe head injuries and waking up in ambulances and hospitals is because my mother decided she wanted to commit a crime, hide what she did, and then make sure that I wasn't allowed to get medical care. Any other child has an overdose at age 7. The teachers are calling him in the hallway because there's a sudden change in his body. He's bumping in the furniture. He's speaking about this overdose at the doctor's office. The mother's continuing to give him full bottles of Epicac, continuing to drug him, making up stories at the doctor's office. The child is saying, my mother is making up stories. My mother is lying about me. That is my metal. That is my stuff. Why did you throw all my toys away? Why are you doing this to me? Why are you giving me this med? Why do I feel sick? Why do I feel ill? Why am I puking? Why do I feel weird? Why do I feel weird? Why do I feel funny? Why do I feel weird? I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I did that. You're hearing all these different things coming from everybody in the house. You got people in the family speaking up. You got teachers and friends and people of responsibility trying to speak up. With all of that going on, of course, if nobody does anything for that child, and that child is then moved every 2 years to a new location. First, he's moved to Texas, then he's moved to New Mexico. Sorry. First, he's moved to Westford, then he's moved to Texas, then he's moved to New Mexico, then he's moved through Texas on the way to Maine. Then he goes to Maine, and he goes to another house in Maine. Then he goes to Chelmsford. Then he goes in Massachusetts. Then he goes to then he goes to Maine. Then he goes to Chelmsford. Then he goes to Maine. Then he goes to Chelmsford. Then he goes to Haverhill, living, and this is where the kid is living, not where the kid is just visiting on vacation. This is where the kid is living. This is where his doctors are now at, and this is where, and there is little to no supervision of this kid. When this kid, me, is age 9 years old in New Mexico, he's getting food poisoning because his staff doesn't want to make a phone call about a broken fridge. He's going in the middle of the night at 1 in the morning with all the other kids to run around with flashlights to lure out a bear so that the staff member can take shots at it. The kids are being choked out and abused by the staff. And out of all this, there is no education. You got kids, well, one 6-year-old, but most of them are from age 8 to 13ish, 13, 14, and there is no teacher. For the first 3 months, there is one teacher for all these different grades. After the first 3 months, no teaching. I have a seizure in the woods. Who do you think saw the seizure? The staff member on their phone in the building? Because I was woken up 2 hours after all the other kids were inside. How do I know this? Because I was on the ground, little bump on my head, woken up by a staff who told me all the other kids were inside and that they didn't even know I was out there. All the other kids have been inside for 2 hours now. What are you doing out here? So I thought, we just got out here. Because as far as I remember, you brought us out. I was too cold for me to walk, curled up near a tree, started to shake, went unconscious. Now you're waking me up. I got a bump on the head from like a root or something. I don't know at the time. And you're telling me I was out here for all this time? Who was going to get me medical care for these problems? Whose responsibility was it to get me help if I needed it? If I had food poisoning, if I had a seizure, who was going to do that for me in Westford? Who was going to do that for me in Texas? Who was going to do that for me in New Mexico? Who was going to do that for me in Maine? Who was going to do it for me in Chelmsford? Who was going to do it for me in Haverhill? Who is going to do it for me in Lawrence? If I'm vomiting in the bathroom in Haverhill and vomiting up blood, and I don't know that that's important, and I just say I'm sick, who is going to know to bring me to an emergency room instead of forcing me on the bus to school? Nobody, because nobody's going to look at my vomit. Nobody's going to check my vomit. Nobody's going to take an interest into my sickness. They're just going to say, okay, well, we'll make a phone call. Now get your stuff and go to school. Nobody cares a living shit about the little orphans. I've seen kids get double doses of medication like it's nothing. Like it's nothing. I watch kids get held down on the ground and get the same medication twice, only because their roommates tell stories. This stuff happens all the time in society. Because these people in charge in the programs, as long as they get paid their check, they don't care. And they get rotated. And they got a lot of kids to watch. And these are not nurses or teachers. These are not trained professionals with medical degrees. Okay. In New Mexico, these people are getting hurt. There was a little girl age 8 who's getting choked out in the shower naked by a big black man. That is not proper. None of that. That's illegal in every aspect. But I don't even know if that little girl ever got help. As far as I know, my father was the only father that actually got reimbursed and actually got justice served. And I mean, you can look at the guy, you can look at this field of rattlesnakes in the middle of New Mexico up in the mountains, 2 hours from the nearest hospital. No, there's no police. There is no medical help. If you called for an ambulance, it'd probably take 3 hours before it got to you. This is in the middle of nowhere. There's no laws, no regulations, nobody cares. Unless you have lots of money and an attorney, you're not getting justice. See, my father has money in a lawyer to throw around. So if you affect his money, he will come after you and he'll do everything in his power to get justice. But you rape his son, you beat up his son, you poison his son, you take a metal object to his face, he won't care a bit, because he'll say, oh, that's not my son. No, do what you want. But you touch $1 of his money, and my father will have every lawyer that he has and every dollar he has after you. But you try to cripple his own son or hurt a human being, that's okay. It doesn't cost, as long as it doesn't cost me anything. Actually, if it makes me money, go ahead. My son's been costing me for a fortune, my father would probably say, and then just throw me straight. No, please do kill my son. Yes, please hurt him. Actually, I'll pay you $10 if you just off my son for me. That my father definitely would not act like he does with money. If you scam my father out of 20 grand, oh my God, would he fuck you up. But you screw his son out of 20 grand and cripple his son for life? Well, that's a little different, he would say. So we got those type of problems going on too. I got my mother crippling me, poisoning me, playing around with pills, lying to doctors, manipulating me, brainwashing me, getting me to repeat things that I shouldn't be saying, and then just bailing out on it. Like she was not part of it. All this type of shit happening year after year, all the way to the age of 19, until she passes away. At the age of 19, after she passes away, I get dropped off into the woods to live, because I take some of my father's new wife's illegal drugs that she brings into the house. That's simple. At this point, I try to live in a shelter, but my disabilities are apparent, and my father and mother have never told anybody what's wrong with me. My mother kept it a secret her whole life. No matter how many times I brought up my disabilities at the doctor's office, I was ripped out of there. I was moved to another state. And then I was moved to another state, and then moved to another state, and then I was only allowed to see psychiatrists. And my mother was the one who would be informing them with fantasy stories. That way they never, like one time we were in a group with my mother, my father, and me. My mother was lying about a swimming medal. The swimming medal I spoke about before. I won a swimming medal in an orphanage, and my mother stole it from me. My mother brought this up, and I couldn't hear it. I said, I can't hear these lies anymore. I said, she's lying. You got to stop lying about me, Mom. This is getting me hurt. This is hurting me. Stop lying about me. I won that swimming medal. And this is now at the age of 16. So this swimming medal was taken from me at age like 6 or 7, and that was brought up at the time then. And my mother then called me a liar, a thief, and a fantasy spinner. Now I'm 16. We're in Dr. Rosenblum's office, where I'm only allowed to sit in the corner quietly, as my mother makes up every fucking fantasy in the book. Tries to bring up attachment to, what is your problem with your biological mother? I didn't even know her. I don't have a problem with her. I didn't know her. As far as I'm concerned, she was a 15-year-old girl who did the right thing. That's my biological mother. But my adopted mother continued to poison me, put her hands on me, lie to doctors, make up stories about me, get me hurt, and I still can't get medicine or medical care today. I still need medicine for epilepsy. I'm still having seizures. At times, my legs and arms still don't work properly, and at very rare times, they don't work at all. How would you like to be walking down the street, have a fall, and not have your legs work for the next 24 hours? Yes, I have got stuck outside where nobody will fucking help me until the sun comes up. How would you like to be on the side of the road until the sun comes up? Be walking at 9:30 at night, have a fall, wake up at 10 from a seizure or some injury, and then find out you can't get out of there, and then see car lights every so often blow past you and nobody will stop. How would you like to go through that shit all because your mother wanted to hide? And my mother knew what she did. My mother knew it. You could see it on her face constantly. She lied. She manipulated. She took evasive action. It was very clear. And she did it. There were times where I literally saw my mother give me pills. Then I would get sick. And then I would never see those pills in with my regular pills again. And I wouldn't feel like that again. Until the next time my mother drugs me when Halloween comes around the corner. Then I want to go out trick-or-treating. My father says okay. The whole family says okay. But my mother says she doesn't want it. My mother's not getting her way. So she says it's time for medicine. She slips me some pills. I got to put my costume on. An hour later, I'm puking. I'm sick. She comes by the bathroom and says, ha ha, you're sick. You can't go out. And then the next year, the same thing happens. And the next year, every year, my mother calls me over for my medication, tells me I have to take my medication. You have to take your medication. And then I get violently ill. And then the next day, my medication is back to normal. And then I'm a drooling mess. And then it's just, yeah, I'm still ill, but a different level. My mother's still having me over-medicated, but she's not poisoning me. At times, my mother would poison me with medications I'm not even prescribed. But then at all the time, she was always trying to have me over-medicated. Now, the doctors in Texas, the people in New Mexico, and in Maine, I was not being over-medicated, so things went well for me as far as my body goes. But as soon as my mother was allowed to mess around with pharmaceuticals again and get doctors to take the blame and do all these fucking crazy things to me, like inject me with drugs twice in the same hour because my roommate wants to make up stories. Shit like that. Yes, Lowell Treatment Center in Lowell, Massachusetts gave me a double dose of multiple dangerous pharmaceuticals like Thorazine, Seroquel, only because my roommate wanted to go around telling stories. I told my roommate that he was weird in a way for wanting to tell cocaine stories. My roommate's going, cocaine this and cocaine. And I'm like, shut up. What do you think it's cool? You think it's cool? And I'm making fun of him in a way, saying, what do you think it's cool to talk like that? I say, pot is one thing, but come on, man. At this point, I made my roommate feel a little bad. So my roommate wants to get back at me. Oh, yeah, watch this type attitude. And then he goes in the hallway and makes up a story that I wasn't taking my medication at all. And then he comes back in with the biggest smile later after the staff have held me down against my will. I have told the staff, yes, I took my medication. I've told the staff, yes, you saw me take my medication. Yes, there is no medication. You can check me, my person, my body. You can check everything. But no, my roommate wants to tell a story. Now, the reason why this works and the reason why staff are quick to literally destroy the internal organs of another person is because sometimes kids will cheek medicines and then try to sell them or trade them for goods. When I was in the rehab facilities, I saw this a lot, and it clicked to me why the staff are quick to do this. Because some kids will take their Suboxone or their opiates and cheek it. But see, at the time, I wasn't on anything good. I was on Thorazine, Seroquel, Trazodone, Lamictal. They even pulled my Ritalin away. I wasn't even on my Ritalin anymore. While I was in Lowell Treatment Center, they pulled my Ritalin away. They said I did not need Ritalin while in a treatment center. So I didn't even have Ritalin. Nothing to cheek, nothing good. But I had an asshole roommate that was willing to make up stories. But that doesn't matter. All these kids tell stories. They're psycho. Some of them have been telling stories about everybody for years. They're pathological liars. It says it right on their chart. Pathological liar. So why are you drugging me for somebody on his charts as pathological liar? Because my roommate was. He told more stories than anybody. Like that cocaine conversation, I told him to shut up and I was making fun of him because that's how he was like. He always had a fucking story about I once was a cocaine dealer and I made millions and I lost 100%, whatever. And then, and this happened and this happened. My roommate had so many bullshit stories. Bullshit. If you're 15, you are not a heavy drug dealer selling cocaine. And I might have believed his story, not really believed it, but might have had a hint of belief if it wasn't for the fact that he also said he can make magic mushrooms out of the toothpaste in the fucking program, in the treatment center. He said he could turn the toothpaste in the LSD and magic mushrooms. I said, if you do that, then why don't you do that and go to the bathroom and get high already? And the kid was talking about how he could turn the things in the... No, you can't. These are all crazy talk. But then he goes out of the room, does a bunch of crazy talk with the staff members, and they come back to harm me. And I tell the staff members, no, Joey is telling a story to you guys. I took all my medicine. He's mad because he told a story and I asked him to stop. But, see, idiots are willing to harm other people when they don't understand what's really going on. They will take first-hand or second-hand accounts and then just go act horrible, do violent, terrible things. And then when that person comes to their house beating their people with a baseball bat because you did something wrong, they go, why? What did I do? You did something. Like, let's say a girl comes up to you and says, that man raped me. And then you go over there and you punch him in the head and knock his ass out, right? And then that man wakes up in the hospital in a wheelchair for 5 years. He has to learn how to walk again because he had a neurological disorder. So he learns how to walk again for 5 years. He's finally up on his legs again. And 1 year after he's up on his legs, he's walking by the street and he sees you. Now, you have no clue why that guy punched you and put you in a wheelchair for 5 years. You have no idea what's going on. So you go up to him and you say, what the and you're ready with a weapon and you're ready to fucking kill this guy. And you say, why did you fucking put me in a wheelchair for 5 years? And he goes, you raped a fucking girl. And I say, no, 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 I didn't. What the hell are you talking about? I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And it's just some little bitch who wanted to tell a story, laugh, and then you see, she's long gone. But at the time, she's laughing at a corner when you got paralyzed, going, ha 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 ha. The guy who wouldn't give me $1 when I asked, ha ha ha. He's now on the ground, ha ha ha. So now, this asshole who paralyzed you did a bad deed based upon false information because he acted on a whim. So now you say, oh yeah? And then you go after this guy and you paralyze, let's say, his wife, or you beat the shit out of him because he did do something. He crippled a disabled man. You hit a disabled man because you heard a story. You crippled a man because you heard a story from a woman. Now you get it, right? You were willing to punch this man because you heard something went wrong. Well, now you find out you did something wrong. So now I get to come after you by your own logic, right? Your logic was, I raped a girl, so I get to get killed or beaten, right? But then you find out she was just a storyteller. She made it all up, and you acted too quickly, and there was actually no evidence to it. You didn't see it happen. You just heard about it, and you believe the person because she's your sister or something. So at this point, then you acted, and somebody got put in a wheelchair. Somebody who was already willing to volunteer at church, somebody that was helping children. So now those children lost their homes and weren't able to go to school because you hit them, and that guy's in a wheelchair for 5 years. He comes out. Now, by your own logic, when you find out that your sister lied and you just crippled a man who was doing such good deeds, doesn't that mean that he then gets to beat the living fuck out of you? Are you going to accept that beating? No, you're not. Most people will go, oh, it was a mistake. Oh, it was a mistake. Oh, it was a mistake. Exactly. There are mistakes everywhere in life. There are little details in life that you don't understand. That's why I really like that new show, that new movie I watched, only for one detail. It reminded me of my anxiety. It was called The Society of Magical Negroes. But I get horrible anxiety of these misunderstandings because my mother used to set them up on purpose, and my mother would purposely try to blame me for anything she could find. So any loose ends she could find, she would pull on and fuck me good. So when I see a loose end like in that show with the purse, this drunk woman asks for help. She cannot get money out of the ATM. A nice, kind, young man, just like myself, says, yes, I'm willing to help you, no problem. She puts the card in and she starts giving her phone number. He goes, no, that's your phone number. You got to put in your PIN. And she goes, well, I got to look through the purse. Here, hold the purse while I look through it. So he has his arms out. She's looking through it. And then she goes, oh my God, my card's not in here. Oh my God. And she's flipping out. And he goes, the card is in the machine. The card is right there. You're looking for the PIN. Oh my God, I've been robbed. I've been robbed. She goes, I've been robbed. So then this woman starts screaming, I am robbed. I was robbed. And this guy's just trying to help her get, he's there with her. And then she turns to the white man that's coming down the street that is her brother or boyfriend, a bunch of jock football players, and goes, I've been robbed, I've been robbed, I've been robbed. And then they look and they see the African American man holding the purse, a young, nice man who is willing to help. But he hasn't got to say his side yet. Nobody has asked for any information. Only information we got is that this woman is screaming, I've been robbed, I've been robbed, and this guy is holding a purse that this person's never seen before. Well, all of a sudden they start getting ready to beat the fuck out of him. And that's the moment that I have a flashback of my mother setting me up and trying to get me beaten or hurt or hitting me with a ruler or giving me drugs until I'm sick or making stories up to the doctors so they overprescribed or so much. So many times I get hurt because somebody else says something that is not true. Like this woman with the purse making the statement that she was robbed when her card is in the ATM, and she just put everything like that. She has made things like that herself. And now this poor, nice young man is going to get a beating from two white asshole jocks because this woman wants to make up a story and she's mistaken. She's not purposely doing this, but she's mistaken and drunk. And this guy's helpful and nice. And now the nice guy who's helpful and nice is going to get a serious beating because two stupid asshole jocks are going to jump to conclusions and beat the shit out of him. But luckily, one of the friends stop everything and go, oh, look, the purse magically poofed back into her hand, and she had it the whole time, and they all walk away. And then a magical genie, African American, walks over and says, that's why we have the Magical Negro Association, basically. Go get some ribs and some stuff at the restaurant. He's all nice to the white people, and everything's settled. And then they explain that white people jump to conclusions all the time and make other people get hurt. So if black people want to survive in this world, they have to make us happy because we'll jump to conclusions and beat the fuck out of them and hurt them. And that's exactly how I feel. Every single time if I'm not nice, right? I feel like I have to be nice and kind to everybody, including my mother and father at all times, or I'm just going to die, literally die. And it's true. It's because I've been set up in this way by my mother and father. If I were to do my own thing, I'd die. Let's say I want to just go to work. They'll tell me I'm not allowed to work because my mother and father have made decisions beforehand. Okay, well, then I'll just go to the shelter, right? Then the shelter tells me I'm not allowed to stay there because my disabilities aren't apparent. I need to go to the doctors. So I go, okay, well, if I need a place to stay, I got to go to the doctors, and I go to the doctors. Then I go to the doctors, and the doctors tell me my mother and father have already got there. So if then I get mad, things get worse for me. If I try to put pressure on my father to fix these things, then he gets more mad at me. It doesn't matter what I do. If I try to yell at him to fix his shit so I can actually live and stay alive, then he tries to hurt me even more. If I'm nice about it, he does nothing but run away from the situation. So no matter what I do, I'm left to just die, die, die. And in this movie that I'm talking about, he makes a good comparison to me, an African American. He says, I always feel like I'm looking over my shoulder. I always am wondering, like the setup, like I said, like how people set you up or how your setup matters. Now, these African Americans have been set up poor and disadvantaged. Now, my mother set me up to be poor, disadvantaged, and a target. So when anybody wants somebody to blame or throw to the ground, they can do it to me. My mother has called me a liar, a thief, a shithead, everything that people call black people. Oh, black people are thieves. They're drug addicts. Black people are poor. That's not true. That's racism. Well, my mother did the same thing to me. My son is a liar. My son is a thief. My son is stealing black people's medals. My son is weak. My son needs pills. My son is mentally ill. Just blame Zach. When in doubt, blame Zach. That was exactly the motive in my family. Well, not motive, sorry. That was exactly the saying in my family. So I was trying to say the word saying, and somehow the word motive came out. That's not good, but I hear it as it happens. Sometimes I have to leave it how it is, though. Anyways, that movie was okay, not the best, but there was a couple things in there that I related with a lot, like that misunderstanding over the purse. I really wish I had a black magical friend that when there's a misunderstanding and I'm about to get hurt because my mother and father either misunderstand or my mother is purposely misleading others, if that's about to happen, somebody could snap their fingers and just make the other party go, oh, okay, now I understand, and just give instant understanding, because that's what people need. That's what those people needed in that movie, were instant understanding. That's it. That's all my doctors need. My doctors need to help me. They need understanding. They need to understand that I had an overdose at age 7. I have a neurological disorder, and all the stuff they're reading in the medical file came from my mother. Yes, doctors were involved, but this is the way it works. if your mother gives information to the doctor, then the doctor takes that information, puts it as a diagnosis, and then they prescribe. It's that simple. If your mother says you're hyper and you're tired, you're hyper and you're tired, and then you go into Lowell Treatment Center for 30 days and you're on downers, and then you're hyper in the morning and then tired after your medication, and then you're hyper in the afternoon but tired after your next medication, and your mother continues to report bipolar, 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 then you'll get a diagnosis of bipolar. And then if you take away all your medication and then you go into a treatment center and you don't have your mother doing that asshole shit and you're hyper all the time, then they'll call you ADHD. That's simple. But even if you're hyper all the time and your mother's going, he's bipolar, a lot of doctors and a lot of people in these treatment centers still will give you medication for bipolar. What can affect the results and make you look like you're bipolar? It isn't until you stop all medication that you can get a real read on your kid's behaviors. Because if you're giving him things that can make him drowsy or hyper or sick or nauseous or have a lack of appetite or slow or dizzy, that's going to affect the behavior of the child. That's simple. But see, that's something my mother and father can't wrap their heads around. Well, actually, my mother knew it great. My mother knew that a doctor was only as good as the information she gave him. My mother taught me that at the age of about, 12 years old, that a doctor is only as good as the information she gives him. My mother said that the information my mother gives the doctor is all the doctor is going to base on. My mother knew this. My mother knew that the doctor was only going to work with her information because she has shut me down completely. And now I'm 31 and I cannot get help with my actual disability. I do not need any of the last shit I got for the last 25 years other than help with anxiety and PTSD. But just about everything else other than my addiction is complete bull on my mother's side. I mean, attachment disorder, bipolar, all these drugs and pills. The coordination issue is real, but we never even looked into it to figure out, hey, there's something bigger here. And tell me, why is an overdose an allergy attack? Because I still don't get that one. And we left the doctors in Westford before I got a straight answer. I asked about the overdose that night. I gave all the symptoms just like I've given in these videos. My mother said she gave me medication and it was just called an allergy attack. She did not remember the meds and we did not need to look into it. Well, where's the further treatment with that? I want to know more about this overdose. I want to know why I went blind. I want to know why the fuck I lost my sight completely. I want to know why the fuck I passed out and my breathing slowed down. I want to know why I woke up different for the rest of my life. I want to know why right after that the teachers are calling me in the hallway realizing that my body is changed for life. I know these facts. These are absolute facts because I was there firsthand to see them with my own 2 eyeballs. I know for a fact my mother admitted to giving me extra medication, admitted to giving me medication I wasn't prescribed, and messing around with pills and medication in my body. My mother openly admitted that she thought it was okay to mess around with pills with me in my body at a young age. And many people witnessed that. Me, my sister, many people have witnessed my mother's coming clean into at least one of these poisonings. And it was hard for me to get my mother to tell the truth. Oh my God, she loved lying. When it came to something as bad as giving me a full bottle of Epicac or day drinking, my mother wanted to blame me, not take responsibility for her own actions. So I had to say things in a way that my mother did not fall right back into lying. Like I would say, let me guess now, Mom, you're going to make up a lie, tell me a story, and now everybody's going to look at me like a shithead, right? And then my mother was just about to do that, goes, no. And then she would tell the truth. She'll say, Well, so what if I poison you? So what if I gave you a full bottle of Epicac? So what if I give you extra medication? So what if I give you extra medication you're not prescribed? And then I ask the question, do you think it's okay to give a child extra medication that he is not prescribed as punishments? My mother goes, yeah, so what? Stuff like that. Getting those angry confessions are hard. My mother wants to fall back on lying and manipulating. But if I say the question just in the right way, or if my mother has just the right amount of conscience, or if she just got out of church that same day, or something like that, then I would get the angry, so what? Who gives a fuck? So what? I hurt you, so what? I took a metal ruler and smacked you across the face, so what? I'm about to do the same right now. So what if I threw a shoe? But you just said you didn't remember and at all. Yeah, I lied, so what? That was my mother. And we could have saved her too. She could have lived a couple more years if people listened to me. I could have got more help and I could live many more years as it is, but I'm probably going to be dead soon too, thanks to my father's decisions. There's not much I can do about that unless my father changes his mind, starts calling me and working on his second wife's issues. If he decides to put all his second wife's issues onto me, then I just die from the weight of it. And I mean, we handle these issues, I'm not allowed to work, I'm not allowed to drive, I'm not allowed to use a shelter, I'm not allowed to get proper medical care until this problem with the second wife is fixed. You cannot allow your second wife to make up stories to Social Security and to doctors for so long, moving from state to state, erasing stuff, and then ignore your son's cries for help. I mean, he's telling you about it at the doctors. He's telling you that he thinks his mother is crazy. He's sucking on his skin afterwards. His teacher's calling home. I mean, is it my father's not answering the phone for the teachers? Is it just my mother handling me? Is that the issue? Is it that my mother was the sole person handling everything? So anytime she wanted to hide information, like what the teachers were saying, all she had to do was answer the phone and keep it from my father? Because I don't understand how my father could not see it. The teachers were calling home about it in Westford. They were calling home about it when I went to school in Worcester. I mean, there's so many people calling home as far as teachers and workers, but I'm guessing that a lot of the times it was my mother who had the phone call with the teachers. Now, there was also teachers that just thought my mother was crazy, thought I was just ill, and was just judgmental. So don't get me wrong. The teachers in Westford were good. Oh my God, that teacher was excellent. I had her for a while. That was right after first grade. I had first grade in the orphanage. I remember going that one, but right after that, I went to another school that was more like the size of a public school. This was at the same time I got made fun of for going to ballet, because when I went to ballet, one of the older girls went to the same ballet class, so that wasn't fun. But anyways, the real high school, they realized the sudden change. And it was a sudden change because, hey, you fried your son's nervous system and he's walking funny. I mean, come on. How can, I don't understand how my mother and father didn't, well, my mother definitely knew the change. She did it. She was on the phone with the emergency responder people. So she knew there was a problem that day. And the next day, literally like 2 days later, I'm sucking on my skin. 3 days later, whatever it is, I'm sucking on my skin, saying, I don't know why, I don't know why. I'm trying to see how it feels. I'm trying to see how it feels. That's it. I don't know why. And everybody's trying to force ideas. Oh, yes, you're suicidal. It's called, yes, that's what that means. Sucking on your skin means you're trying to kill yourself. Yeah. Is what my mother's trying to drive into me, and it's confusing the shit out of me because I don't know what it means. I have no idea what it means for a mother to give you pills in your hand. You have life-threatening illness symptoms. You wake up feeling different. Then you suck on your skin and it feels different. You walk and it feels different. You talk and you think it sounds different, but you think it's just you. And then your teacher starts calling you in the hallway saying that everything is different. So then you bring it up to the doctors and let them know that something happened to you and you're not sure what to call it. And then the doctor is very concerned, and the father looks concerned, turns to the mother, and the mother is all panicky looking. And she goes, "It's just an allergy attack to medications I gave him." And then the doctor goes, "Oh, what medications were those?" "I don't remember," the mother says. By the way, a later conversation that my mother had about this so-called allergy attack, she told me that the people on the phone during this, or I think she was telling her father, and I was overhearing it. She was telling somebody that the people on the phone said that there was no possible way that those medications could interact, causing that reaction. She wasn't talking directly to me, but I did overhear my mother speaking about that afterwards. My mother at the time also said the words right as I passed out from this overdose. "They don't know what they're talking about," and hung up. They wanted me to go to the emergency room, and the medications that I was on shouldn't be causing an overdose. That type of reaction. And I needed to go to the emergency room right away.